Okay, moving on now. We've got Fantastic Four number 575. Alright, now Fantastic Four opens up with these three mole-like creatures coming out of the sewers, and then they make it to the Baxter building. The security alerts them, and the Fantastic Four get down, and they say they have a message from the Mole Man that says, please clear the lobby, and then the Mole Man shows up and says that he needs their help. Alright, so pretty much Mole Man is talking to them about there's a city that was a failed work of the High Evolutionary, and that housed the mole people that he ruled, the moloids that he ruled over, and that eventually soon they're now going to raise the city. And so pretty much the Fantastic Four team up with the Mole Man to go down and stop him. And on their way, they notice that Reed left the body of the Galactus from the future there, which is pretty good drawing right there. All right, next up we've got the journey. Then they get to the city, and they finally get to the city, and then Ben leaves them because he remembered that the Mole Man said these moloids abandoned their children because they weren't, appropriate or something. Then Ben leaves, jumps down, and he's devolving since he got close to the city, and he finds them and takes them out. Then Reed realizes that they're raising the city, and they get out, and then they talk to. And then pretty much Ben says that the change is going to wear off in a few hours, and they're still worried about how the city's going to affect you, and that they're going to have to help get involved with it. And here we're at the city. And then we have a little epilogue by Herbie here about what happened, okay? Alright, Fantastic Four 575 was an okay, slightly above average read for me. I mean, it's a good one. It seems like an interesting story, but I kind of want to get back to the whole Franklin Richards from the future concept. Alright, next up, New Avengers number 61, Part of Siege. Alright, we open up with the Hood talking to his thugs, saying he'll power them up farther than to levels they haven't achieved before. Then we cut to Bucky and Captain America looking at the remains of Steve Rogers' house in Brooklyn, and how most of their stuff is being found. Then they get attacked by the living laser, and Bucky's fighting back. Steve jumps and tries to find some weapons, I guess, from the Hammer agents. Bucky's fighting, but then Bucky gets attacked by the Corruptor, and the Corruptor is almost has Bucky put the gun near his mouth and stuff. Then we have Spider-Man and Spider-Woman doing recon over near Avengers Tower. And he talks to Spider-Woman, and he says that eventually Osborn's going to fall, and Spider-Woman tells him that she's working with S.W.O.R.D. to fight off alien attacks. Then we come back to the Bucky-Cap fight, where Cap's taking out Hammer agents, and then he finds his energy shield, which he uses as Corruptor's controlling Bucky. Then we've got Mandrill and Griffin up on a rooftop watching Spider-Man and finding Spider-Man and Spider-Woman, and they attack. Now we come back to the fight where Cap's telling Bucky to fight it, but he can't. Then Bucky fires his gun at Steve, but Steve bounces the bullet off, goes off the shield, and then everywhere, and then it gets through the Corruptor's iPod and shocks him and he runs and hits the living laser, and he knocks out Corruptor. Bucky gets free, but he's weak, and now living laser attacks them. Then we cut to Mandrill and Griffin attacking Spider-Man and Spider-Woman. Then Mandrill tells Spider-Woman to kill Spider-Man. She attacks him, and Spidey apparently falls to his doom. Then Mandrill tells Spider-Woman to show them the hideout of the Avengers. Okay. Avengers 61. New Avengers 61. It seems to be a good time to Siege. It seems to sort of tell the story about how Steve's probably going to get back into costume and get to the get back into being Captain America. Right? Next up for my other main Marvel event, Spider-Man Clone Saga number 5. I have been enjoying this miniseries. Alright. This is the Clone Saga the way it was meant to be told. Ben Reilly, Spider-Man, Peter, Mary Jane pregnant, Kane. Apparently there's an Osborn clone and mysterious figure who we have no idea to be controlling. And we get to Ben and Peter saying that they're never going to get out of this, and which they're assembling a baby swing, which is probably difficult. Then they start talking about it, and Peter says he's worried about being a father, but Ben tells him, don't worry, your kid's going to have like the coolest dad ever. And when he says, my daddy can be up your daddy, he's probably going to be right. And then we have Mary Jane and May having coffee at the Daily Grind, where Mary Jane goes into labor. Then Ben and Peter decide to get in their costumes and go see her in the hospital. Then we get to Mary Jane waiting to be delivered, and she's introduced to Allison Morgan, who's Mongrain, who's going to help her deliver the baby. Then the Spidey brothers go off, and they run to Kane. And it's just a big sibling reunion where they fight. Mary Jane going to labor, fight, and then Kane gets away, but then Ben decides to go out and look for Kane while Spidey goes off goes to see his wife. And then Mary Jane gives birth and they have baby May. Aw, nice moment. Then all of a sudden Allison Morgan takes the baby and she throws out her ID and leaves the hospital, and Peter's getting pissed off, and Peter is of course pissed off because of what happened to his daughter. Then Peter and Ben suit up and go off. And then it's revealed that Kane has the baby and that he's working with the mysterious figure who we don't know who it is. Then he releases the Norman clone and gives him a goblin mask. Then Ben gets attacked by the Green Goblin, who's claiming that he's the original, and then whatcha! Ben gets stabbed. Which is a very, very interesting, very good cliffhanger to end this issue. Right? Spider-Man Clone Saga, very, very good. This has been a good series, and I hope that the conclusion I hope there's a very satisfying conclusion. Right? So stay tuned for my DC reviews.